evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the public session of the Pelham Board of Education meeting of August 26, 2020. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Sue, could we please have a reiteration of the executive session motion?
Yes, the board met in executive session to discuss discussions regarding proposed pending or current litigation, employment of a particular individual, employment of an additional individual, and collective bargaining negotiations.
Thank you. So I wanted to briefly thank the hundreds of parents who attended Dr. Champ's information sessions last Thursday, and especially also to Dr. Champ and all the administrators who attended all three sessions. The community feedback and involvement in our reopening process has been instrumental. As you've gathered from listening to the meetings, there are no easy answers. I'm assured by our district's thorough process that our administrators have put the health and safety of our students and teachers at the forefront of their decision making and have strived to meet the needs of the greatest number of students. Our year's success hinges on flexibility, an open mind, ongoing feedback, and a humble willingness to adapt and adjust as needed. While I know this will be a challenge for us all, I'm confident that Pelham students, teachers, and parents are up for the test. The board is looking forward to our annual buildings and facilities tour next Wednesday evening. It's clear that while our buildings have been quiet with students over the last several months and the summer, that our custodial staff has been busy and they've made a lot of progress on our capital improvement projects as well. Finally, a reminder, should members of the community have public comment for tonight's meeting, please email me at jddomenico@pelhamschools.org before 8:30 and include your name and Pelham mailing address with your comment. Thank you. Okay, so this brings us to section 3, approval of the minutes. Could I have a motion? I'd like to take a consent of 3.1 through 3.3.
So moved.
Thanks, Jess. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Vinny. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. I think, Eileen, you're back on the call. Section 4 is policy monitoring and governance, and we have a first reading of policy. 4.1 is a policy on school closures in the event of extreme heat.
Yes, we put this together to have a little more guidance for the district on making decisions about what happens this fall, especially in these next couple of weeks, with the potential of having very high temperatures outside and students in school wearing masks. So if you take a look, we found some information from other parts of the country who have policies like this, and basically they all defer to this National Weather Service heat index chart, which we've also put into the policy, and you can take a look at that, and that will help guide Cheryl's decisions on what to do about the district on those very hot days.
And one thing I would add, thank you, Eileen and Leah, both did a lot of great research in helping to develop this. Those of you who have children in athletics probably know New York State does have an athletics policy similar to this. And I think if I remember correctly, if the feels like is 96 or higher is what triggers, inside practice or modifications to the practice and play. Being that this is indoors, it's not active, it's more passive. We felt like the range of, that a little bit higher range would still be acceptable. Given that it was, again, indoors, not active play. So we thought it'd be more tolerable, and especially because it was a nationally recognized chart that is used by many districts around the country, thought it would be an appropriate measure. I believe if I remember correctly, that we also, in the second paragraph, I think this is something that's probably important to point out. We talk about if the forecast calls for outdoor heat index to be in the danger level, which again is referencing the chart. or higher, or if the educational spaces are found to be unsuitable for learning. And I just wanted to point that out because that is the thing that becomes of specific concern for us, as Eileen said, especially with masks in our buildings, 5 out of 6 which don't have air conditioning. If the heat becomes so oppressive that it is not suitable for learning and it's counterproductive, then it does also give the potential to to abbreviate the school day or close. And certainly we recognize the hardship that will be on families, so this is not something that would be used liberally, but certainly given the challenges in front of us, felt it was an important policy to have on the books, as Eileen said, to help guide decisions. John, you're muted.
I'd only point out that the danger level is a pretty high threshold.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a lot of people really uncomfortable before you get to that threshold.
Yeah, and that was one of the challenges. We did have some debate around that, especially given that the athletics standard is at 96, and that seems to fall in the middle of the caution range.
96 temperature or 96 heat index?
Feels like
it's the real feel, John.
Like the real feel.
I understand.
Yeah. So, in my thought, just looking at the chart, if we were on if we moved into the extreme, the next lowest, what is it? Extreme, the caution. The beginning of that range, we'd have a lot of heat cancellation days. The top of that range, I agree, it's going to be pretty uncomfortable. That middle is where the athletics is, but again, athletics is outside in the sun with more activity. So, and the other policies we looked at were in the danger range, but I think you do raise a fair point, which is also part of why we wanted to add that additional sentence in there. Maybe it doesn't quite reach the danger range, but the environment is basically unproductive for learning. It does give
well, this is a standard that's used all over the country. It's used in parts of the country where all the schools are air conditioned, and parts of this country where none of the schools are air conditioned.
Well, I will say that for the policies that we looked at where they do use this, they specifically call out that this is only for the non-air conditioned schools.
Okay.
In their districts. We didn't say that because logistically, the way our district is, it would likely be all or none. But we did feel like we did talk about that danger versus extreme caution, and really just decided that it would be a guide, it would be a starting point, and so that we weren't all walking around saying, kind of feels hot, what do you think? And then we allowed for Cheryl to really make a call based on what's going on in the building. I mean, a lot of things factor in, like, was it 80 degrees all night long? And you can't possibly cool off a classroom, or did it go down to 60 the night before? So it's, I think that we need that flexibility, and I feel like we put it in there, but to be totally upfront, the chart is really just a starting point.
Well, it's in the policy.
Well, but I think it's clear in the policy that it's one element.
Yeah.
John, the reason that we included the chart was because just listing a temperature, just picking a number, is pretty meaningless if it's very humid, and it's often very humid.
No, I understand the chart, and I appreciate it. I think it's the right instrument. It's a question of if there's a threshold, if it's a required threshold, or if it's just a suggested threshold, whatever, how it gets used within the policy, I guess, is the real question. And I think it's a high threshold. That's on my only point.
And is this policy meant to? I know we've talked about heat in the classrooms for years. Is this policy, I know our current situation has motivated the discussion that much more, but this is something we anticipate to leave in place in perpetuity, or, for the long term, not just for a school year like the one we're looking at?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Given that it is a pretty high threshold.
Yeah.
Let's put air conditioning in, then we don't have to worry about it.
I think that
If only, John.
this doesn't take Cheryl off.
I know
that
that's what she wants to
hot
do.
seat.
Yes, it is. Still one of my biggest regrets from the bond days that we had to take the air conditioning out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody has a question.
No, I was
Or
just gonna say, it allows Cheryl to have some guidance without taking away discretion.
Got it.
Okay. All right, so Eileen, if I remember correctly, we're bringing this back next time.
Yeah, and I think then if there aren't any more questions at that point, we can probably waive the third reading and go ahead.
Okay. So at our next meeting, we'll see a second reading.
Yep.
Okay. Just in time for the kids to
Yes.
begin the year. Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay. Cheryl, in this next section, I should have asked you in advance. Do you want me to, I was going to consent 5.1 to 5.4. Do you,
Oh, that's,
I'll do that and then you guys can jump in where needed.
yeah, I think I'll let Jim just add any color he'd like to any of these items.
Okay, sorry, discuss as we go here. Okay, so section 5 is financial reports and motions. I'd like to take a consent of 5.1 through 5.4. Do I have a motion?
So
Oh,
moved.
sorry. Thanks, Vin.
Second.
Second. Thanks, Eileen. So any additions here?
Sorry, I guess the code of conduct is the same as what was presented at the reading, at the public
so we-
hearing.
So this includes the code of conduct, and I should have said, and the public school-wide school safety plan. Both of these we review every year at this time. Jim, anything you want to add to the
That's
school
correct.
safety plan?
School safety plan, we've just updated it to reflect the changes in administrative personnel that have come on board and those that are leaving since this was first placed before the board at the reorganization meeting. And those lease agreements are the standard agreements that we have every year. We just added some additional language to reflect COVID and the current circumstances. So, and these are the providers that we've had every year.
I just wanted to say something about the code of conduct. That code of conduct we're still working on it. Still a work in process, but it reflects all the changes that we've made so far as of the end of last school year, and and they are noted. The sections that are still under review are noted. So we'll continue this year.
But the
So,
adjustment to the code of conduct could happen over the course of at least a year. I mean, it's a very meaty document.
does it address gatherings by students not recognize or not practicing social distancing?
It does not.
No.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. I mean,
We-
we can talk about that.
We've been working on a separate handbook. And again, it still doesn't address your question, a separate handbook for parents and students outlining expectations. And I think that would be, ideally, that would be the next step is discipline. And I think, to be honest, a lot of this will fall into the insubordination category, which it does speak to in general broad strokes. But that's something that we're going to be working out as over the next couple of weeks, to be sure.
I'll bet you are.
Lots of things you can do with a mask other than wear it. So,
Oh, man.
yes. I did want to point out just one more piece too about the childcare programs. Those are the only after school. Those are the only real programs that we're going to be allowing in the schools after school hours. For the time being, our building use is going to be significantly restricted, really only to those programs. But we know how important those are to the community, so we wanted to be sure that we work to get those programs up and running.
And that's to allow proper amount of time for cleaning, correct?
Yes.
Are we still doing the critical personnel daycare we did last year? First responder daycare?
Yeah, at this point, I do not believe that the executive order has been extended to that point. But we all know our governor well enough to know that could change on a dime.
Yeah.
We hadn't talked about it. I was just wondering because last year we did it.
Yep. No, you're right. And at we did provide a little bit through the summer to family who we'd been providing through the spring. But as far as we're aware, the obligation has ended at this point in time. But again, with the start of school upcoming and the shifting sands that we're all on, it wouldn't surprise me if that again comes back on the radar.
Do we have other questions or comments on these items?
And just if I can make a comment on the donation item 5.5.
Yes.
Very, very generous donation from the Pelham Civics. They are donating the standard masks. As you probably are aware, schools have to be able to provide masks for staff, students, and visitors if they don't have one. That's an expense that many districts are burdening themselves with. We're very fortunate the Pelham Civics has stepped forward and has really availed that supply to the district in a very generous way. That's pretty much not an area of ours for those basic standard masks. And they came forward very early, and they want to be great partners. And this is certainly a great way to show that partnership. Just pretty significant.
That's great. I'm going to read that one on its own for that reason. Okay, great. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so I'll take 5.5, which is the motion to accept the donation that you're referencing on its own. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Thanks, Vinny and John. So let me read that one aloud. Okay, be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent and the Board of Education of the Pelham Union Free School District, here does accept the donation of personal protective equipment, PPE, mask donations in support of the district operations, and that gratitude be bestowed upon its donor, the Pelham Civic Association. It's wonderful. Do we have any questions or comments on this item?
No, it's a tremendously generous gift.
It's really amazing. Jim, is this for a year's supply, or is this to get us up and running, or
They have
for a
said
set amount?
they have said that they will be there for what we need.
Amazing.
So they haven't listed it. They haven't said a number, and they've been very, very forthcoming and said that they would be there for the district.
Very nice. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Section 6 is superintendent's personnel recommendations. I'd like to take a consent of 6.1 to 6.3. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Sue. A second?
Second.
Thanks, Vin. Anything our assistant superintendents can add?
Just one, I guess, big one is that we're going to welcome back Susan Gilbert, sort of as leave replacement at Colonial School as principal. So we're very happy to have her back.
Very good.
And
Colonial parent, I'm excited too.
and tonight, this is back on the agenda tonight, just to add a couple additional transition days. Heading into the most unusual of years, we needed a couple more.
Yes.
And for item 6.3, we are in the process of hiring monitors, school monitors. We are still interviewing people and expect to have additional hires. This is just, again, a lot of it is related to COVID and reopening. And we have some retroactive ones that we'll be putting before the board at the next meeting as we look to fill them, because these are going to be critical positions to fill.
Very good. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 7, People Personnel Services. We have a Schedule D. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Vin. Thanks, Sue. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 8 is new business. Do we have any new business? Section 9 is communications and comments from the public. I do not have any comments from the public. So adjournment of the meeting. Eileen?
Madam President, would you entertain a motion to adjourn?
I would. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Finn. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody.